So here we go. We're back this week. And this week we're going to talk about the research project because you guys will be writing a research project soon. So there are some tips that I'm going to share with you guys, and of course, some how to outline your research project, how to get started. At TESOL, the research project, the topics are defined. You have 4 topics to choose from. And you will find these topics available in your Canvas. Right here, I'm going to also share this link with you guys in the chat box so that you can, dive into it. But let's get started. So what is a research paper? It is an in-depth consideration of a topic or research question. So when you think about writing a research paper, we think about an original thesis statement. Many students confuse and think that the topic has to be original. The topic has to be original for a PhD, but for the level of postgraduate, you need to have an original thesis statement. So that will change in terms of the originality. So when we talk about a PhD, not even a master requires an original topic, only the PhD. So it's an original thesis statement, and this is what we're going to work on, how to write an original thesis statement. It engages primary and secondary sources. We're going to look into this as well. What are primary and what are secondary sources? And somehow it will contribute to the field, in this case, foreign language teaching, either the language that you plan that you are being qualified in, or English. Now, all of the papers, they talk about English, but they can be adapted to other languages as well. In the case of other languages, there are specialists that will read the paper. Now, it is similar to an academic essay, but they're longer. And they are based usually on specific assignments. Now, to assess, the purpose of the research paper is not only to assess your skills as a researcher, but also to assess your skills in writing, how well you can use structure, how well you can select the appropriate vocabulary to express your ideas. In order to write a strong research paper, you need to have strong knowledge of the topic as well. So it requires a lot of background research, a lot of background reading in order to collect information and express this and write this information in an academic fashion. So the stages is research and planning, writing and revision. Very simple, in fact, the stages, but each stage has steps that have to be taken. So before you get started, you have to identify the assignment goal, the deadline, length specifications, formatting, submission method. All of this, it's before you start your research, you have to be sure that you understand each of these elements. So you should dedicate time to go over the assignment, carefully read the writing assignment, the prompts, the grading rubric, or any other materials you receive. So all of this is available in Canvas, and we'll look into it as well. So you should make a bulleted list of the key points and then go back and cross off, really, piece of paper that you write your list of what you have to get done. And as you get it done, really cross it off. Not even digital. I always recommend that you do it in handwriting because you can stick it somewhere. Mali? Hello?
Hey, yes. Hello. Hello again. Thank you very
Hello.
much for your presentation. I have a question. How we should decide about the topic of research and who confirmed the topic of the research? For example, I want to work on, as I suggested you, I desire and I wish to work on online teacher training course, the need of the teachers in online teacher training course. Who will confirm this subject? Who will actually approve this subject? Should I
Well,
send email to anyone?
No, there are 4 specific topics that you can choose from and that you will fit in your research in the topics that have already been pre-established by TESOL. And that's available in Canvas, and we will look into the 4 different topics, okay?
Okay, thank you very much for your response.
That's it. So I think that one important detail is to be sure that you cover the assignment. It has to be fully covered. So that's why the list is going to help you guarantee that you cover all of the specifications in the assignment. We have to be careful with time frame, word limit, and we have to be realistic. Because, I mean, it would be lovely to do an in-depth project, that you would do field research, that you would put together a strong, literature background. But sometimes it's just not viable because of our commitments and the time frame. So then we have to narrow it down. Of course, we know that from this in the future, it can be expanded. But for now, work within a limit. You have to learn and you have to decide you have to narrow down the topic to a specific, to make it so specific that you can cover what you proposed. Because if you propose and you can't cover it by the end of your research project, you're going to have to kind of like go back and rewrite your introduction. So you can save it, you can get it done, but then you'll have to probably go back and redefine and rewrite your introduction, your thesis statement, and your objectives. So choose a research paper topic. Well, how? Clearly define and narrow down your topic. Don't neglect the guidelines given. Sometimes you're given a list of choice, which is here at TESOL. Sometimes you have freedom to choose. For instance, Mali wants to work with the online teaching concept. There is a topic there that you can fit it in, okay? Consider what was covered on the course, so that we will have a session about online teaching. Follow your heart, passion, and curiosity. If you're not in love with it, you will not bear getting through the process of writing a research paper. Trust me. It's not painful, but you're going to have to set aside time from probably giving up other activities that you really enjoy to write your research paper. So you've got to be passionate about it. Now, you will investigate and understand all of the different viewpoints of thought on your topic. So, for example, Mali, she wants to consider online teaching. So, one of the aspects probably that Mali will have to consider is teacher mediacity. So, how is the teacher's role in online teaching? Is it a blended course? Is it 100% online? So, all of this has to be considered before deciding what is the scope of your research project. That's why it's important to explore literature, journals, books, and other reliable sources. Nowadays, there are many blogs online, and even blogs can be used as reliable sources. It depends who's the author of the blog. Consider the variety of perspectives. So we know that online teaching, there are advantages and disadvantages. It may be naive to only look into the advantages. It may show that as a researcher, you're not aware of the disadvantages that we also have to deal with. And so this is something very interesting. Whenever there is a problem that has to be solved, what is the best way to solve this problem? To do research about it, to identify, the lapse, to identify the problems involved, and try to find a solution to overcome those problems. That's what research is all about. It's quite simple to write about advantages, but writing about the disadvantages and at least, showing in your writing, in your research paper that there are advantages and disadvantages, and bringing up one disadvantage and proposing how that disadvantage can be overcome. That is the cherry on the cake for sure of any research paper. Keep notes of all your source details. You should open up a specific file about the research. You can separate it in articles that have potential, articles that you just found interesting, articles that you have read with notes. So, be organized in saving your sources and the details. Now, primary and secondary sources. So the primary sources, they are the first-hand evidence. So they provide direct first-hand evidence regarding your topic. Usually you will find them in interview transcripts, works of art or literature, historical documents, statistical data. The secondary sources, it is what you're going to do. The research project is a secondary source because the research project is going to use primary sources and other secondary sources to put it together. So then you're going to work with journal articles, books, reviews. So your research paper in the future, it will be a secondary source. So there is the CRAP test. So the CRAP test is very popular when it comes to conducting a research. So CRAP stands for currency. Is the information up to date? And we know that teaching, in particular online, it's an ongoing development. So we really have to be sure that you are up to date to it. Now, the relevance, the information that you're collecting, is it relevant to your research? Authority, where is it published and who is the author? So the author, like I said, you found the blog and the author responsible for the blog is a professor. So that's a valid source. Accuracy, where does information come from? Is evidence provided? And the purpose. Why is this information published? So the information, is there a purpose to that, to it being published? In your case, yes, there is a purpose to write a research paper, to conclude your postgraduate course. So it's important that whatever you read, there is a purpose to that. Many times an article published in a journal, it's to reveal results of a field investigation. So that is when you go through the CRAP test, you will verify if you're on spot with the content. So it's a very well-known strategy and easy to apply, in fact. Before you start writing, have a clear idea of the structure, the outline. So how are you going to organize it? It's going to have an introduction that we know the introduction. Even though it's the first piece that you read, it's not really the first that you write because the introduction will kind of like reveal. Mali?
Yes, I want to tell you about the introduction part. Usually, we write from the general to the specific, and that at first we begin with something general. For example, if we want to work on the need of online teachers, at first we write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And it's true. However, we have to be careful with the introduction, how much we extend it according to the number of pages that you.
And gradually
That's it. So the introduction, another important information about the introduction is that you're going to reveal in the introduction what, even like how the research, how your research paper will be, conducted. And sometimes you really haven't yet, if it's a field research, you haven't yet done the field research. So you don't even know what method you're going to use or anything. So that's something to really look into. The introduction, we always have to go back and reread and many times re-edit before we can conclude it. Now, formulating a thesis statement. This is the key to a research project because this is the piece of original. The originality stands here in the thesis statement. So it has to state your central argument, establishing the purpose and position of your paper. So it answers your research question, it's concise and coherent, and it guides your arguments. So the thesis statement, you can't start a research project without writing your thesis statement. So here's a development of a thesis statement of a topic such as sugar consumption. So, I mean, this is a fragment. It isn't a thesis statement yet. It indicates a general subject like online teaching, let's suppose. Now, we have to narrow the topic. So we're going to read about the topic and so on. And we're going to come to narrow it down to elementary school children are consuming far more sugar than is healthy. So based on your readings, based on, journals. So in fact, what are we aiming for probably? Reducing sugar consumption by elementary school children. So the problem is the consumption of sugar is over what is recommended. Maybe you've read a research paper about a nutrition specialist. Then you're going to take a position on the topic. Decide what you really want to say about this topic. So more attention should be paid to food and beverage choices available to elementary school children. So now you're narrowing it down and you're expand. At the same time that you narrow, you expand. You expand in the sense that you provide more information of what your research will cover. So let's talk about work-life balance, for example. This is a thesis statement. It indicates a general subject. Now, how could we, based on something similar to what we did, you would read about the topic. Of course, we're not going to have time to read about the topic, but from the top of your head, from what you know of work-life balance, could you kind of like expand work-life balance and what could be approached and what could be developed? Olga?
Well, one of the approaches can be to narrow it down to a certain group. Work-life balance in the life of executive officers, for example, or
Teachers,
office
right? Work-life
workers,
balance for
or
teachers.
teachers. Yes,
There you
something
go.
so on.
Right?
Yeah, great, excellent. Thank you for the idea. So, in the life of teachers, and then like the thesis can be. It's very important for teachers to maintain healthy work and life balance as they give a lot of energy to students. And to be a successful teacher, you need to have that energy. Well, something like that. It's worth elaborating a little bit more on it. I mean, to make it sound more sophisticated and academic, but well, I believe it can be, can it?
But that's it, you're on the right track. That's exactly what you have to do. So then, of course, the need of teachers, preserving or investing in work-life balance, or how can teachers guarantee a healthy work-life balance? So then from that on, you're going to start to look for resources and sources to read and to put it together. Kara, you raised your hand.
Oh yeah, Olga said already some of it, and you guys covered like narrowing it down, or I guess picking like looking at the different elements of work-life balance and then choosing one. So work-life balance of who, maybe in teachers, and then making it more specific, like where, like online, at home, in
Very good.
or,
There you go. You see,
or like in a
that's it.
classroom at school, yeah. And then what age group, like public school teachers of young children.
There you go.
So I know it's all about making it more narrow specific, and then
Perfect.
later on editing it too, right? And making it just
There
as
you
as
go.
can. Yeah.
That's it. And by doing this, it's the moment where you start to search for your sources and you get input, and then you're going to be prepared to choose and narrow down. Is it going to be online teachers, like you said, public school teachers, elementary, secondary? So what are we? And you can narrow it down to you will narrow it down enough to be able to write about it. You can then conduct maybe a field research with some teachers. Okay, Celeste, your hand was up.
Yeah, I was wondering if the opposite was also true. If you're narrowing the focus by narrowing the question, what I mean by that is, could you ask a question about the assumption of work-life balance and say,
Definitely.
is work-life balance a myth? Or debunking the paradigm of work-life balance. So you're not drilling down with the assumption you push or you challenge the assumption itself.
That is a possibility indeed. Like
Okay,
I said, it's very easy to talk about the good side. Now, challenging, you will have to definitely look for different sources in order to propose answers to this question. Is it a myth? Well, we don't know. Let's find out, right? So let's dive into the literature and let's see what the literature says. Excellent. Has anybody else raised their hand that I missed? No? Okay. So,
I think I see Moshe Yada's hand up.
there you go. So that's a new student here. I think we haven't met. Moshayana, please. Hello.
Yeah, hey, hi Anna. Sorry, because I have been pretty busy with my classes lately, and ever since the time has changed, I wasn't able to attend any seminar. So yeah, this is the first time that we are meeting.
Lovely.
Okay, so I'm glad I came today because this is a very interesting topic, and my question was similar to Celeste that making a thesis statement and narrowing it down, is it similar to like going for and against a topic and deciding a side?
Kind of like, yes, you can consider this for or against, and you can say, because it's important for you to define to your reader, okay, so we know about the positives, we know about the benefits of the work-life balance, but how to conduct, how to reach, how to, let's suppose, demystify maybe could be a word for this, work-life balance. So then you can go, it's not going to be narrowed down to a career, like we said, teachers, this and that, but to the topic of work-life balance then, which is a valid topic,
Okay.
of course. Okay, definitely.
So I can narrow it down to basically like if I say I want to work on work-life balance, given the fact that you have a family that you have to take care of all alone. So that can be one of the sides as well.
Sorry, the connection was a little bit unstable. I missed what you said.
Okay, no worries. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's clear.
Okay. I just wanted to know that if, let's suppose, I narrow this down to work-life balance when you have when you have a family, like a family that is totally dependent on you, can that be one of the sides that I can cover?
How
I know.
to, then you would probably try to do something like how to manage work-life balance in terms of family commitments or family, you
Okay.
know. Yeah, I don't want to use the word obligation because it's not really that. It's commitments, family commitments. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So now this was something that I came up with. So I'm going to read about the topic, and I found that work from home opportunities and 6-hour workdays will improve productivity when employees are in the office. So that was something that I came up. So my thesis statement is corporations should provide more work from home opportunities and 6-hour workdays so that office workers have a better work-life balance and are more likely to be productive when they are in the office. So now with this in hand, I'm going to conduct the research, which is quite narrowed down to the opportunities of 6-hour workdays. So that's one of the intentions of this research, is to show that the benefits of the 6-hour workdays. Now, here is a thesis statement related to education. So as physical libraries become obsolete due to digital devices, the government should fund digital libraries instead of physical ones to ease the economic burden of students required to buy expensive ebooks. Now, this is quite narrowed down, and it involves how we can offer to students the opportunities. So the above statement would require the individual writing the paper to make a strong case regarding the physical libraries are more expensive and less efficient to manage as compared to virtual libraries that can help students acquire books without incurring heavy charges for renting or purchasing ebooks. You can also make a case for open education resources to help students excel in their studies. So that's So then you would have to conduct your research. But the thesis statement here has been nicely narrowed down. So what to include in a well-written thesis statement? Clarity. That's the first step. Your thesis statement should be clear and direct. You want to explain what you're talking about in a way that readers can easily understand. Consider your audience and assignment requirements as you select the topic, phrasing, and vocabulary. It's not because you're writing a research paper that you have to use eloquent words such as plethora. That's not being academic. Okay, so crazy words do not make your writing academic. It's accuracy, preciseness. That's what makes a strong and a well-written academic paper. Specificity. This is important. Good thesis statements include specific details about what information is in the essay or study. For instance, consider an essay about the effects of technology on interpersonal relationships. Rather than using a general statement like, this paper discusses how technology influences relationships, you could say, this paper discusses how technology affects the quality of interpersonal relationships, frequency of face-to-face interactions in significant relationships, and the awareness and the average number of important relationships in individuals from 18 to 55. Okay, so now it would be very general. This paper discusses how technology influences relationships. That would be the starting point, and then you would narrow it down. Interest for readers. You should create your thesis statement with your readers in mind. In this case, who is your reader? The evaluator, who is going to evaluate your paper. And then the audience that's going to read it. So we know that the papers that you write will be read by other teachers probably. If you are writing for an assignment, be sure to address your teacher's prompt in your thesis statement. In this case, it's the prompt from the list. In other situations, you want to write about a topic that will interest your audience and make them want to keep reading. So, of course, if you're not writing an academic paper, you are writing with a different style. You're writing in a way that you capture your audience. The academic paper, you are in a certain way exposing your level of language, your competence as a researcher. So that is the basic difference of writing a research paper. So writing the introduction. What is your paper about? Introduce the topic, add key terms and ideas. Why is your paper worthwhile? So you need a justification that your paper, that the topic that you're going to develop, discuss and develop is worthwhile. So you're going to tell the reader what new insights you will offer. That's what is the original thesis statement. So once again, the topic is not original, but the way you conduct it, the way you develop, that's the original. That's where lies the originality. How will you make your arguments? Give some signposting about the structure of the paper. So the last paragraph of the introduction should be a paragraph that explains how the paper is divided. So in the first section, this, in the second section, that, this, the third section, in the conclusion, this. And then you're ready to move on. This last paragraph you will write after you finish. Okay, you can't really predict exactly what's going to unravel. So the last paragraph, how it's organized, is written after the research has been concluded, in fact. You do have an outline in your mind, but the final draft, the final writing of this paragraph is after the research has been concluded. Then you have the body. So each paragraph or section covers one idea. So if it's literature review, you're going to, discuss the authors that your research is based on. That is one section. If you're going to discuss results on how you conducted a field research, that's another. The results of the field research, that's another section. So each section has a clear objective. The information presented in a logical order that serves your argument. So of course, if you're going to do a research paper, literature review is It's essential, and that's where you get started. That's one of the first sections after the introduction. It's the literature review. The body paragraph has to contain all the evidence and arguments. Don't save anything for the conclusion. I mean, you're not going to bring new ideas in the conclusion. Conclusion does not, you cannot add new ideas. What you can add, and you should add, is an analysis that is the result of the research that you conducted. That's the moment when you will voice. Until then, as a researcher, you don't have a voice of making statements. All of your statements, all of your writing will be based on other authors. Okay, you're really not independent enough to make a statement on your own without support from, be it statistical data, from an author, from primary or secondary sources. Present and develop all your central arguments and the evidence supporting them. So that's the evidence. What is supporting your statement? Support your thesis statement. You must support your thesis statement. So that means once you have a thesis statement, all of the research is going to be conducted to answer and to cover the thesis statement that you have written. So the paragraph structure. So in each section, you have several paragraphs. So you have to have a topic sentence for each paragraph. Every single time that you're writing, your thesis statement has to be there. And at no point can you write anything that does not relate to your thesis statement and make effective transitions. So for example, once you have finished the section for the literature review, you're going to move on to the next. What is the next section? Are you going to deal with field research? Are you going to deal with already your analysis? So it has to be well, elaborated. Writing the conclusion. Summarize your argument and central view. No new arguments or evidence should be added to the conclusion. Reflect on limitations. Mention the limitations. If during your research you faced, any kind of difficulty to conduct it, it should be mentioned. Suggest areas for further research. How can this research be extended in the future? And then edit for content. So you've done a lot of work to get to this point, but it's really not ready yet. You need a final revision. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I write a paper to be published in a journal, because if you don't publish, you perish. It comes to that point, principally for university professors, we have to have a certain amount of, articles published. So I have a reviewer that will review what I wrote, because you're so focused on the content that many times you may miss grammar, punctuation. It's incredible. So you need a reviewer. Edit for grammar, it is also important. Commas, semicolons, run-on sentences, all of this. But once again, sometimes you are so, immersed in what you wrote that you can't really see a run-on sentence, because when you read the sentence, it makes sense to you because you developed everything. So, but for an outsider reading sentence, it can sound as a run-on sentence, and it can actually be a run-on sentence. These, when I correct as research papers, these are the most common mistakes that I find. So it's subject-verb agreement, singular and plurals, articles, verb tenses, fragment, non-grammatical sentences, a wrong tone. Sometimes they're using a wrong model for word form, collocations. So that can also come out wrong. For example, if we use technological devices, or they're going to say devices of technology. No, it's not devices of technology. It has to be technological resources. Missing words, too many words. Sometimes a sentence in a paragraph is just too wordy and redundant. Punctuation and spelling. So these are the most common areas. we know sometimes our weaknesses, for example, weaknesses in too many words. I suffer sometimes. I know that I'm wordy and I'm redundant. So that's why it's important to review, to have a reviewer. Reread before you submit your research paper. Olga, hi.
Hi. Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say that I have a similar problem. And in my case, I believe it is due to my cultural background because Ukrainian, both Ukrainian and Russian, they are much more wordy than English. And so far, English is the most economical language, I would say, because I used to do some translation occasionally, and I remember when you divide the page into two columns, they're equal, and you have the target text. It is always much shorter than the original text. It is always much longer than the target English text. So
Definitely.
native speakers, they just do it. And I try to learn from them. And when I revise what I have written, I think, okay, can I use some infinitive construction, gerundial construction instead of the complex sentence here? Because that is what native speakers normally do without even thinking of it. So yeah, being wordy is a problem. Yeah.
Now, sometimes as researchers, we are wordy because we want to be sure that the idea is clear. And you don't need 3 sentences sometimes. With one well-written sentence, you can get your point. You can make your point. You know what I mean? So researchers, we have this need to explain, support, confirm, and be thorough. So sometimes it's not really only cultural. It's as a researcher, we do this. We want to guarantee that what is there is well understood by the reader. And sometimes it just makes it more confusing even.
Oh, yeah. True.
Okay. Now, this is a checklist that you should stick, you should have it around when you're writing your research paper. So, yes, there is, okay? Moshadaya, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I saw so many, it was too
It's
quick, your
okay,
name.
it's Mushayada.
Mushayada. Yes, there is a limitation. Each task in the list that you will choose from, there are specific, word count. So does your paper fulfill all of the requirements that the assignment asked for? Did you stick to the topic that fits the assignment? Are your sources credible, reliable, and logical? Do you have a clear, arguable thesis statement? Is your paper organized in a logical way that it is easy to understand? Did you plagiarize? You guys won't have this type of problem, but younger, more unexperienced students, they do it without even knowing that nobody has told them previously that they can't copy without citing where it's coming from. Did you proofread for content and grammar improvements and errors? Is your paper properly formatted? Are you prepared to submit it? Yes. If not, sleep on it a couple more days. That's why it's good to be ahead of schedule. So this is a quick outline of the introduction, the research question, the thesis statement, the body, research results and arguments, and the conclusion, summary of key points and significance of the topic. So this is a general guide, of course, that it's going to have it's going to unfold as you write and you work on your essay. Here are some sources. So for the APA citation, that's going to be helpful for you guys. And there's the citation generator. This is so helpful because you kind of just put in the info and it will generate the citation in the APA, format. And there are other formats as well, Vancouver and so on. Now, the TESOL research projects, there are a few research projects that you can choose from. Below you have few options, but we can also accept an alternative project if in line with teaching English TESOL or in other languages such as French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Italian, and Japanese. So if you feel that none of these 4 options, speak to you, then you can propose and it will be analyzed and accepted or not. So the first one, it's ABCD. Describe in 8 to 10 pages preferred methods used to teach English to children of English-speaking families born and raised in a Korean or Arabic or Chinese or Spanish-speaking country. So this happens frequently. Many, executives, and they move to other countries, but they are English speakers. But they go to a Spanish-speaking country, they go to an Arabic-speaking country. So how does this work? How do we, teach these children? What is a syllabus that should be part of this? So that is A. B. Describe the best method to teach English to non-native English speakers. For instance, living in a Korean or Chinese or Arabic speaking environment. So you're teaching English to non-native speakers, but not in an English speaking country. So compare this with non-native English students residing in the US, for instance, or in Canada, or in an English speaking country. You can concentrate on business English. You can concentrate on TOEIC, on academic language. So we're trying to compare the same learning group, people who don't speak English as their mother tongue, in two different environments, and evaluate methods that can be used, and the results achieved, advantages and disadvantages, along with methodologies that suit best in either condition. So this is, you can consider focusing on a comparative research design in language learning. So you can compare different methods or two specific methods. The third one is elaborate on the formation of English foundation as primary learning levels to a foreign speaker that intends to learn writing and reading in English for academic reasons, geographically located in a country such as China or Egypt, where the first language is not English. This is for academic learning, such as TOEFL, IELTS, and university entrance exams for adults. So here are some references that I found that can be like the beginning. Now, elaborate on teaching ESL in Canada to immigrants and international students. Compare the LINK program introduced by the federal government to other immersion and intensive programs used in language schools or colleges across Canada. Provide suggestions on improving the LINK and outline its advantages or disadvantages to other programs available in Canada. So the LINK is the Language Instruction for Newcomers to Canada program. And there's a website. Daniel did his research. He chose this topic. And if I were you, I would ask him to share, because his research project, he really used a lot of primary sources, documents, to support his arguments. Now, there are, for instance, when I'm a supervisor or a mentor to students, whatever they deliver to me, I put it through a plagiarism detection tool. So here it's called the dog hunter that we use. It's one of them. So you define number of words. So for example, I usually define 8 words. The only thing is that it will identify plagiarism from online material. It will not identify plagiarism from hard copy books. So you have also the plagiarism checker by Grammarly. And then there are 25 thesis statement examples that will make writing a breeze. This is a more, practical approach than the references that I used to put together this presentation. Thank you so much. Next session, we're going to go into Canvas and read in detail, but you can do that already. So let me share the link with you guys, and you can kind of like prepare by reading the 4 options, and we can kind of like start discussing for you guys to have some information to choose what you will work on. So let me just add the link here to the chat box. There you go. So for next class, is the link there? Oh, here we go. Kara, good idea, Kara.
Yes, I can see the link.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Malie. So for next class, I would like you to go through this so that we can, discuss and to help you decide what topic suits you most, or suddenly, no, none of these topics is really what I'm thinking of. So then you can write a proposal for a different topic. Okay? I'm going to stop the
Okay.
recording now so that we can discuss any details that it's not part of the class. Here we go.